Let me bring in my guest, CNN national security commentator and former House Intelligence Chairman Mike Rogers. All right, Mike, what are your thoughts initially coming out of this summit? What do you think?
I don't know. You maybe changed my mind. That was a strong. But listen,
it's worth pointing this stuff out, right? Because the symbolism and the hope of peace is great, but it's really easy to compartmentalize all the other stuff. And when it doesn't really get addressed by this president, I think it's worth reminding. Go ahead.
No, and I completely agree with you. Let me tell you why I'm very cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
So we've moved to a different place that we've never been with North Korea, which is direct relationships. It's access. And one thing that we knew in the old business of intelligence is access is really important. You get to better understand intentions and other things. So I looked at it this way. We're not talking about throwing bombs at each other. We're talking about the possibility of some framework moving forward. That being said, I have lots of reservations, and again, you know, there's good Trump and bad Trump in most things, and this one I think completely exemplifies that with giving them the training exercises off the bat. I thought that was a really bad decision.
Yeah, I mean, the largest concession of the whole process seems to be the end to U.S. conducting those military drills in South Korea. Was it a mistake to take that away, and was it also a mistake not to warn South Korea?
Oh, clearly. I was in South Korea last fall, and the one thing that all of their senior leadership that I met with was concerned about is what they called Korea passing, meaning making decisions without consulting with South Korea. It's their peninsula. They've got troops at risk and civilians at risk, and you know the list is pretty long why they ought to be included. And this is exactly what happened. They didn't even find out about it. This is what they're concerned about. So I think the administration in South Korea is going to put on a happy face, but I guarantee you they're not happy about where they're at right now. And remember, these operations were to show North Korea that the United States could show up and some NATO allies could show up in force with the capabilities to destroy North Korea. You know, you show them that to keep everybody in check. That was our mutually assured destruction, if you will. You take that away, you know, that's a huge concession, not only to North Korea, but by the way, the Chinese, who love that. They did not like these exercises ever, and this was a big win for them.
Right, and suddenly the region feels a little less safe, perhaps, to some of the people who need it most. The White House and Secretary Pompeo have reportedly agreed that representatives from a Senate working group will attend any further negotiations with North Korea. What do you make of the idea to include Congress in this process going forward? What's the thought process behind that?
Well, I think they were very upset about the Iranian deal. I was one of those members who was equally upset. So I think probably inclusion is a good thing. If you want ultimately a Senate-confirmed treaty, you have to have them engaged. So I don't think this is a bad idea. I'm not sure I'd invite them to all of the key meetings. But I think having them along, or at least have some understanding that if you're going to participate in the meetings, you can't run to the TV cameras and say everything that happened in there. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, and at the end, they're all going to have to make the determination. The president, do I negotiate the treaty, and the Senate, do I pass the treaty? So, you know, that's probably the best little piece of politics I've seen coming out of the White House in a little while.
Yeah, I agree. Congress should play a bigger role in these kinds of treaties. But also just practically thinking back to when Trump and Congress have gotten together on, I don't know, name your issue, immigration, for example, health care. We kind of end up in stalemates. Is there a risk that Congress, you know, kind of mucks this up?
Oh, always. If you're talking about Congress, there is always the opportunity to muck it up. I'll take that bet every time. SE. But I will tell you, though, I think, again, if you want the treaty, they have to go through the Senate to get that treaty. Yeah. So including people who are thoughtful and really do want to see an outcome here that could help protect the United States and prevent nuclear war or any exchange of conflict is probably a good idea. Again, I worry there's a little bit of vanity diplomacy in all of this, that it's me, I got this, and it's mine, and I did this. And I worry, you know, his kind words.
He doesn't want to share the ball.
Yeah, he doesn't like sharing much. And he's, you know, the kind words for Kim Jong-un, taking his words and using provocative with military training exercises, by the way, which we do with Europe to push back on the Russians. I don't know if he feels the same way. And so, I'll cautiously optimistic that the dialogue started. There's a lot of things here we got to start to get right. And the other one is, please, Mr. President, prepare for the next one. He was very excited that he didn't prepare, and some of those comments, I think, reflect that.
Well, he's so excited about what he accomplished from this one. I'm just not sure he would do it any differently the next time. But let's talk about some of the optics of all of this, things that I mentioned. Also, the North Korean flag hanging side by side next to the American flag, the glowing reviews from Trump saying that he trusts Kim Jong-un, that Kim loves his country. This is exactly what Kim wanted. But what are the dangers of treating a dictator like royalty?
Well, I mean, clearly, this is where, again, preparation would be really important. The president could be encouraging about the talks, encouraging about turning a new leaf without saying we condone everything that you've done and are doing and currently will be continuing to do during the negotiations, which, as you noted, was 130,000 political prisoners, mass starvation in parts of the country. You know, 2/3 of the country doesn't get electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, all of the problems that are wrought by this really ugly, brutal regime, and he just puts a nice face on it. Again, someone told me today, they said, you know, this is like Trump doing a real estate deal in Queens. You know, he butters you up before he smacks you around a little bit. And maybe that's it, but I just don't think it plays well, because the subtleties of these negotiations have impact not only in North Korea, but to North Korean allies, some in China, and our allies, Japan and South Korea. And that's what I worry about. It's that dismantling of what we would consider common sense in the approach to push back on somebody who's a pretty rotten apple.
Yeah, and normalizing him, right? Elevating him at the same time. Mike, thanks so much for breaking all of this down. I appreciate it.